Okay, hello everyone. Apologies that I'm a little bit late. I know I sent that email and I didn't realize I had hit live. But here we are. Yay, we have somebody joining us. I'm so pumped. Let me know if you can hear me, okay? Because I did. Joining us. I'm so pumped. Oh my word. Let me know if you can hear me. 1 second. So anyway, let me know if you can hear me because I got a little mic and I can always use that if we're having issues. But if you can hear me, um, I'm also happy to just like go ahead and go off the cuff here. If you know me, you probably know me. My name is Jessie De Silva. I am the Millennial Money Witch, and you probably know me from the internet under that name. And I'm here to discuss for our first weekly Witchcast inside the Witch's Way to Wealth Coven. I'm so pumped to get into this today. We're getting into like the fundamental lesson that I teach everybody when it comes to money manifestation. Please ignore my mess in the background. I just realized my blazer's back there. Anyway, the fundamental lesson that we are getting into today is that money is energy. Money is just energy. We hear this all the time, uttered by manifestation gurus, and nobody ever explains it. It's something that a lot of gurus kind of see as something you just learn once you've clicked in to money manifestation and you've been able to figure it out. And that always bothered me. That always bothered me because before I understood this concept, I would hear that and be like, okay, sure, money's just energy. It's kind of like when people say money can't buy happiness. Well, it can buy a certain amount of happiness. I know that for sure. Of course, past a certain point, it's bonus. It's just enhances things, but it's kind of a narrow view. It's kind of like a crappy thing to say when you haven't really experienced that change with your relationship with money. And so, as I was on my money manifestation journey, and as I led a lot of clients on that journey, and what I really understood was a way to explain it to other people. Once I got to that level, I was like, oh, okay, I see what people are saying. I understand what they mean. And for me, it was really important to figure out a way to really distill that explanation in a way that would make sense for other people who had not really learned that lesson and gotten to that point. So we're going to get into that. I'm also going to talk about why you deserve to be rich and how money is just a tool. That's on the agenda today. These are the most basic lessons that you really need to digest and understand to have a successful money manifestation journey and a money magic journey. So I kind of refer to them both as the same thing. Manifestation is money magic is manifestation. So whatever term you feel most comfortable with, great. So let's get into it. Let's start with why you deserve to be rich and why this is the fundamental lesson that you need to learn before anything else. You deserve to be rich because it is something that you are allowed to want and allowed to have as a physical being. Okay. We have manifested into this lifetime, into this dimension. Money is the mode of living here. And so we inherently deserve it. I'm putting it out there, putting that out there. We all deserve money. However, as we live and grow on this journey, we have things that affect us all the way through that kind of change that feeling we have around deserving money, deserving wealth, whatever it is. So, for example, a lot of people feel comfortable with a certain amount of money, but they don't feel comfortable past a certain amount. And you may be listening to that and saying, oh, no, trust. I am happy to have more money. I would be more than excited for that. But it's not totally the case because we have subconscious limiting beliefs, we have subconscious fears and anxieties that we may not even be aware of that are going on down there and getting in the way of us really feeling deserving of being wealthy or having a certain amount of money. Some people may even feel a little bit triggered hearing the words rich or wealthy because they think, well, I don't even need to be wealthy. I just don't want to be living hand to mouth. I would be happy with just a little bit more. I don't need to be a millionaire. I don't need to be rich. I just want to be able to afford to feel free of the anxiety that money causes me. But that is part of the lesson that we have to learn and that we have to integrate, because we get these things repeated to us over the years. And maybe you had caretakers or parents who said things against maybe a neighbor that always seemed to like have a new car, have a new this or that, right? It can be that we hear from our spiritual leaders, money's the root of all evil. If you grew up in a Christian upbringing, there's so many things that we hear. Rich people are bad, rich people are selfish, or even just judgments that have been made against other people as you've been growing up or as you've been living. And then we get into adulthood and we kind of pile on top of that as well, where we hear these stories about people like the 1% and how they're hoarding wealth and they could solve all homelessness in the United States if they wanted to. They have enough money to do it, or they could end world hunger, whatever it is. And we continue to pile on to that belief that being rich is somehow a bad thing. And I'm not necessarily here to say that you need to be a billionaire, you need to be the wealthiest person on earth. And in fact, it's really difficult to get to that place. Like it's very hard to be a billionaire. And you don't need to be a billionaire to be wealthy. But our brains don't really know the difference between being ultra wealthy and being rich or wealthy. There are different tiers of it, of course. And so we naturally internalize these beliefs that having too much money is somehow going to corrupt us. It's going to be bad in some way. It's going to be a betrayal of our roots or our values or whatever it is. That's the natural programming that comes from getting all of that put on us over the years and all of the experiences that we have. So it's natural then for you, when manifesting money, to sometimes self-sabotage or get in the way or not feel fully deserving of what you're asking for. Because again, your subconscious brain doesn't make a distinction between the next level of your money and your income versus the ultimate level of like billionaire status. It really doesn't know the difference. So it's seeing like super wealthy people as bad. And so it's difficult for you to then be like, I am deserving of that next level. Because on some subconscious level, you are saying, I'm afraid of that because I'm afraid I won't be who I am. So we have to work against that. And the way that we work against that is twofold. The first thing is that we have to show ourselves that not all rich people are bad. And trust, I am one of those people who is a total socialist, hashtag eat the rich. Like I am here, I am for the revolution. But we need to still find examples of people who are doing wealthy right. So in my book, The Witch's Way to Wealth, The Every Witch's Guide to Making More Money Faster and Easier Than Ever, I reference Dolly Parton as an example in this, because Dolly Parton is one of these rich people who could have become a billionaire if she did not give so much of her estate away, if she didn't give so much money to charities and to people in her community and creating economic opportunities for people in her hometown and just causes that she cares about. Dolly Parton's one of the reasons we got a COVID vaccine, because she donated a ton of money to it. She's donated tons of money to cancer centers. She has put young people through college who are from her very small hometown. She has done so much with her money that it kept her from reaching billionaire status. And we still perceive Dolly Parton as being super wealthy. but she's doing the good in the world that our subconscious doesn't always associate with wealthy people. So you have to find your examples of that. You have to find examples of people who are doing good in the world. And then you have to tie it back to what you would do if you were wealthy. So generally, me and a lot of the people who work with me have the same kind of outlook on this, where they're like, man, like if I had tons of money, I would give it away. I would tip my waiter $1,000. Like we've seen those stories go viral on the internet for a reason. We would say things like that. We would say, oh my God, I would like pay off school lunches for an entire school in my neighborhood, or I would take care of my family and my extended network, things like that. And in fact, people who do come from humble beginnings, you often see that happen if they do reach a certain level of fame or wealth or notoriety. A lot of them will give back to the people who supported them along the way. And so when you can expose yourself to more people who have done that, especially people whom you relate to, it's easier for you to then say, well, then I deserve to be wealthy because I would be one of those people who does the exact same thing. And so you're able to kind of turn that subconscious belief on its head, where it's not that, oh, money is going to corrupt me in some way. It's that money is going to enable me not only to live out my highest purpose on this planet, it's also going to put me in a position to make this world a better place. And so when you can dial into that, when you can accept it, when you can see money as the reason for how you're going to show up in the world, how you're going to leave a mark on it, how you're going to change it for the better, it becomes so much easier to really own that desire. And if you can take it to the next power, I know for me, I want to be wealthy because not only do I want to do those like acts of kindness, I want to have power. I want to be the kind of person that congressmen want to listen to. I want to be the kind of person that starts trends. I want to be the kind of person who does the stuff that people are always talking about. Like, how do we end homelessness? How do we end food insecurity? How do we take care of people in the United States where we don't have United Health or universal health care? How do we then show up in this world in a way that's going to help all people? And when you can really look at money being directly tied to whatever it is you value and the ways that you are going to help the world, it becomes so much easier for you to say, well, I deserve to be wealthy too, because I would be that kind of rich person. That's what I would do with my money. And so now it feels more comfortable for your subconscious to be like, oh, hell yeah. That's what happens when we get money. That's what's going to happen when I manifest exactly what I want, when I get that new job, when I sign a ton of clients, when I make 20K, 50K a month, whatever it is, whatever your money goals are. When you can tie it into that, it's a no-brainer. Your brain is like, oh my God, sign me up. Let's do this. So that's why we have to accept it, because otherwise our subconscious is going to work against us in that pursuit. The next thing we have to understand about money is that concept of money is just energy. So when people are saying money is just energy, what they're saying is two things. There are two pieces to this. The first one is that money has no intrinsic value. I know that sounds wild, but hear me out. When I say money has no intrinsic value, I mean at the end of the day, cash is just the materials it's made out of. It's just cotton, it's just paper, it's just whatever the metals are, copper, whatever, right? That's all it is at the end of the day. And when we look at things being increasingly digital, they're just numbers on a screen. The only reason these things carry value is because we as a society have collectively agreed that these numbers and these materials have value. And that is truly it. So I like to use the example, and I use this in my book, of during the American Revolution, when they were separating from the British Empire, there was a point where there was the American dollar. They did have their own currency, but the army was starving because nobody would take American money that Congress was giving them. All of the merchants would only accept British pounds. And that shows the fact that everybody has to collectively agree on the value of money for it to have any value. That's truly it. It is completely a societal construct. It is just an agreement we've all made. Now, the reason we've done that is because it standardizes transaction. So, really, money is just an expression of exchange. That's all it is. So, even if we look at the word currency, the root of that word, the Latin root, is the word currens, which essentially means to flow. It is the same base that we get the word current, like in a river, in the ocean, whatever it is. So it's about the standardization of transaction, because before we had money in trade-based societies, the value of goods and services was all over the place. So if, let's say, I am a knitter, I'm somebody who knits and crochets. So let's say that I'm capable of knitting some great sweaters, and I want to exchange that for food. Maybe it's eggs or something. So I'm going to like make some knitted goods, and I'm going to trade with my neighbor who has chickens, and I'm going to trade this, like this sweater can get me X amount of eggs, right? And that's in the winter. Let's assume it's winter and it's cold. My knitted goods have a lot of value because people want to be wearing knitted goods. It is cold. But then when summer rolls around, suddenly people don't need knitted goods anymore because it's not cold. They're not wanting it. So now I can't trade that sweater for the same amount of eggs that I did in the winter. And that's why money, being this construct of value representing exchange, that's why it's so important. It's just the representation of transaction. It just standardizes it. So it protects me as a knitter in the winter or in the summer of being able to have the same value for my knitted goods, or I can price it differently. But if I were to, it takes me out of that trade situation where my goods are going to vacillate a lot throughout the year into being more standard. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I mean when I say that money has no intrinsic value, because the value only comes from our collective agreement that these numbers or these materials carry a certain buying power, a certain value. That's the first part of money as energy. The second part of money as energy is that money is infinite and renewable. I know that sounds like straight up bullshit, because you're like, well, if it were, I wouldn't be needing to manifest it because I would have as much of it as I want. So I want you to think, because I'm going to guide you through this process. We have been socialized to think of money like crude oil, like these finite resources that there's only so much of it available and eventually it can run out. That's how we generally think about money. When in fact, money is more like a renewable resource like sunshine. I'm going to explain how. You cannot see sunshine. You cannot touch sunshine. You can only see the sunshine, not just from the sun in the sky, but from the fact that you can see everything around you. It can, and if we're like, that's what it's, that's how we know that sunshine is there, that it's available. Now, when you go into a place like, let's say, I used to go to this Starbucks when I was in Washington, D.C. And when you're in cities, you've got like that business, that Starbucks or something in the bottom of a building, and there's a huge building on top of it, right? And there's maybe offices there. When you're in that building and you're making a payment for your latte or your lunch, your money is flowing. It's flowing from you. There's money flowing all around you because your money is going to Starbucks, and Starbucks is sending over the Wi-Fi, right? They're paying their employees. The employees are getting tipped. And then everybody else in the building, there's money flowing around too. So you've got people who are getting paid for their work. You've got the landlord who is receiving rent payments from those tenants, everything. It's as money becomes less physical and we lean more into the digital transaction of money, thinking about the Wi-Fi being everywhere, you can almost feel like the money is flowing around you. Let's say you're just walking through your neighborhood. You're walking down the street and you see buildings, you see cars, whether it's houses or apartments, doesn't matter. But all of the people who are living in these places, if you see cars, those cars are probably getting paid off. Like someone's paying for those things. They're paying their rent or their mortgage. They're being paid, if not by a job, maybe they're being paid by a trust fund. Maybe they're being paid by Social Security, but they're receiving payments, they're making payments, and it's all happening over this Wi-Fi. And so as you can think of it like that, you start to see that it is pretty similar to sunshine in the sense that it's happening all around us and you can't see it necessarily. You can only see it when you are able to buy things or be paid or whatever it is, when those numbers actually like hit an account. And so that is how money is an infinite renewable resource, because it's not going to end, right? It's going between people all the time. So it's ebbing and flowing. If someone pays me as a coach, they're giving me their money, and maybe they have less of it in that moment because they've transferred it to me, but I'm going to be transferring it to other things, my own investments or my own needs. They're going to get paid for other things, like as they sign clients or they get a better job, they get money back. Like the money is always flowing. It's not necessarily draining anywhere. And so when you can start thinking of it like that, you can start to feel like, okay, this is infinite and renewable. It almost feels like you could reach out and grab it, reach out and touch it. Like if only I could like catch it in the air, right? And that's all it is. When we say money is energy, it is a perspective shift. That's what it's about, shifting your perspective. And of course, there are actual things like systemic oppression and intergenerational poverty. All those things are real and exist. And I will talk about that in future broadcasts. But for right now, all you need to know is that this is how we start shifting our views on money, because it's crucial to see money differently, to recreate our relationship with money, because that's going to determine the success of our manifestation and our magical practices. That's the truth of it. We have to shift our perspectives to get success. We have to understand our subconscious. We have to confront things. We have to change how we view these things in order to change our experience of money. It starts with the thoughts. It starts with the reframing. The last thing I want to leave you with is that money is just a tool. So at the top of this, I talked about how a lot of us have heard this phrase over the years that money is the root of all evil. And it's really easy to think that because it's along the lines of that quote that absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's easy to make that association with money, that if you have a ton of money, if you have lots of it, it's easy to become corrupted. That's the same thing we were talking about at the beginning with judging rich people, thinking of them as bad. But money has no inherent moral value. It is just a tool. It is the same as if we were talking about a hammer. A hammer is not good or bad. It has no moral value. So if we were to use that hammer to build houses through Habitat for Humanity, build houses for people who are low income or have housing insecurity or are homeless, that hammer is being used for good. Now it's not a good hammer. It's not like, wow, this hammer is better than all the other hammers. We're just saying that's a good use of that hammer. Similarly, if someone was to use a hammer in a murder, like to kill somebody, we're not saying, oh, that hammer is so evil. That hammer is terrible. What? That's an awful hammer. We must destroy it. No, we're saying that is a bad, morally bad use of that hammer. Again, the emphasis is on the use. It's the same thing with money. Money that is used for good, it doesn't change and make it suddenly morally good. Just like if money is used for bad things or for like negative results or corrupt purposes, the money itself is not bad. The money is just a tool. It's the use of the money that is good or bad. And so I just want to leave you with that, because that I think is the easiest thing to digest. Maybe I should have started with that, but that's what I want to leave you with. These are the foundational lessons that we need in order to move on. We have to Recognize that there is nothing wrong with being wealthy. In fact, if you are somebody who cares deeply about the world, you deserve to be wealthy. You deserve to be rich because you'll only create more good in the world. Money is just energy, meaning money has no intrinsic value. We all have to collectively agree on its value for it to have any meaning whatsoever. And it's infinite and renewable. As we are going more into less physical money and more digital money, it's easier for us to see that it's happening. It's moving all around us in the airwaves, over the Wi-Fi. It is everywhere, just like sunshine. And finally, money has no inherent value. It is about the use. It is just a tool. So as we unlearn these lessons and as we get better and we start seeing things with less charge, less like morality attached to things, it becomes easier for us to manifest and for our magical pursuits to have success because we don't have any of these hangups around money. I hope this was helpful. This is the first of the weekly Witchcast, and if you would like to be able to ask questions and get all of your questions answered and get extra guidance, I want to make sure that you join my Witch's Way to Wealth community. It is a free online community. It's not attached to any social media platform. It is solely a place where you can meet other people who are on your money manifestation journey, ask questions on these weekly calls, ask questions in the group in between. And as you go through my book, The Witch's Way to Wealth, you can get all the support that you need on the different topics and chapters there. So it's such a great community. It's brand new and I'm really excited about it. So now that I've finished the bulk of that, does anybody have any questions? I know that we still have a couple viewers here, so I'm going to open it up in case anybody has anything specific they want to ask. If you're just joining us, it looked like we had a couple last minute joiners, kind of wrapped up the lesson, but we talked about why you deserve to be rich, what it means when money is to say money is energy. And that really means that money has no value and money is an infinite and renewable resource. And that money is just a tool. It has no inherent moral value. If you've got any questions on that, even personal circumstances that you'd like a little bit of advice on, now is your chance. And I know there can be a 10-second delay or so on YouTube Live, so I'll hang out for a little bit if you've got questions. And if you're watching the replay, you can go ahead and ask your question in the Witch's Way to Wealth community coven. If you're on YouTube, sorry, friend, you got to go join the group. All right. I think it seems like everybody's good. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for hanging out with me. And I will be around next week. We're going to cover this. We're going to cover the next topic and bring your questions because that's your chance to get all of the details that you want. So I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much for having me. Don't forget to rate, to leave a review, rate this, leave a comment, whatever it is. I'm so excited to do these weekly Witchcasts, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye.